Shining the Light with IUMC welcomes you to another Meditate at 8.
Most of us from an early age learn to measure things. We don't have to be very old before we're experts at looking at two cookies and judging which one is the largest, and therefore the one we want. We measure ingredients in recipes. We measure how tall we are. We measure how much time we have until it's time to leave for dinner, go to a movie, or end our school or work day. Most things can be measured using objective weights and standards, inches and feet, teaspoons and tablespoons, or minutes, hours, and days. But then there are the subjective measurements we make, like when we measure ourselves, our abilities, and even our perceived worth against what we see in others. Sometimes we feel superior, often we feel inferior, and whatever the outcome, we are left with a nagging feeling that there is some standard by which we fail to measure up. Is there such a standard? If so, what is it? And is it just my imagination, or does the standard seem to keep changing? This week, our meditations will focus on measurements we apply to aspects of our faith, and we begin with faith itself. How do we measure faith? More importantly, how does God measure our faith? If I measure my faith by what I see around me, I might observe that some people go to church more than me, others less. That more or less standard might also apply to prayer, giving, serving in church positions, leading a Bible study, singing in the choir. Trying to measure my faith this way leads to an uncertain number of variables applied to an ever-growing pool of competitors. One week I might look pretty good, next, not so much. And when it comes to God, I'm pretty sure the number of my competitors is greatly increased, and there's no way for me to know what variables God might be considering. When it comes to measuring the depth of one's faith, the Bible has a simple standard, which we learned last week when we looked at 1 John chapter 4. God abides in love, and those who abide in love abide in God, and God abides in them. We measure our faith by the measure of our love. Our faith measures up when our actions, thoughts, and words come from a heart of love. When we catch ourselves being judgmental, speaking angry words, or ignoring the person in need, it's time to remember our calling. This measuring stick for faith means that most of the time, we will recognize that the measure of our faith is less than it should be. We're not comparing ourselves and how we love to others. We are comparing ourselves to the perfect standard, Christ. It's an impossible standard. And yet the wonderful thing about measuring our faith against Christ is that God grades on a curve. As we will see tomorrow, God looks at our faith through the lens of grace, and God's grace is off the charts. There's a song by Beth Nielsen Chapman that I really like. It's called How We Love. And if you want to listen to it, I encourage you to look it up on YouTube. But I leave you today with some of the lyrics. Life has taught me this: every day is new. And if anything is true, all that matters when we're through is how we love. In spite of our mistakes, chances come again. If we lose or if we win, all that matters in the end is how we love. Sometimes we forget, trying to be so strong in this world of right and wrong. All that matters when we're gone, all that mattered all along, all we have that carries on is how we love.